Well, we're getting closer and closer as we get into the spring. It's one step closer to football season here in West Bloomfield. And with the exit of head coach Tyrese Grice, there is a new sheriff in town in the West Bloomfield football, and it is their new head coach, Zach Hilbers, who was announced recently as the new football coach. Zach, congratulations, and thanks for joining us today to talk about it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you with us. It's been a long time coming. You've been an assistant coach with this team for about 16 years. You're a graduate of West Bloomfield High School. You were a captain on the football team. So how does this feel for you to have this opportunity now to take over as the head coach of this program?
You know, it's a simple question that doesn't have a really simple answer, I guess. It hasn't really sunk in yet. It's been a little bit over a week, and I've been busy, kind of like nonstop doing, one thing to the next, making sure I got everything in order and set up the way that we need to get it set up for the kids. Um, but in reality, like I don't know, it just feels like a great sigh of relief, I guess, and really just excitement about what we have to come.
Yeah, and and the program's in an exciting spot too. It's been a contending program for several years, a state championship during the COVID year, a couple of years of contending in Division One. Beyond that, always high expectations with this football team, and so managing that is a huge part of the role of head coach with this particular program because there are expectations. The players have those expectations. There's those outside pressure because football in the state of Michigan continues to grow bigger and bigger, and not necessarily to that level of where it's at somewhere like Texas or Florida or other places, but it's getting to that point. So how do you, as a leader of this team, having that experience in the past with some of these players, manage sort of those expectations going into another football season?
Well, I think you make a really good point. Like the weight of expectations are hard for anybody, and we're talking about kids. Some of them are 14 to 18 years old. And it's really my job and our job as a coaching staff that those expectations should be on us, and our kids should be prepared, I guess, to just go out there and not have to think and to just go play. Right. So are the expectations going to exist? Yeah, absolutely. But that's really on us just to make sure that we're doing the things the right way, to put them in the best spots. And really, it's because I don't know, no kid should have to be on a football field thinking about, that type of thing or what they're going to do next. They should, be basically prepared for each moment and be just out there reacting.
And so much of what's made this football program maintain its success, especially in recent years, I mean, this is the third coaching change in 4 years for West Bloomfield High School football, with Coach Bellamy a couple of years ago after the state championship exiting and becoming now the wide receivers coach at the University of Michigan. Tyrese Grice was the head coach for a couple of years, and now you're taking over. That's a lot of turnover, and for most programs, that could be problematic in some ways and the others. But what's great about West Bloomfield football is there's always been that cliche of that next man up mentality. And so even despite the leadership changes and losing players over the last couple of years that have had really big roles on that team, you got a lot of players that are returning and have, they've been younger guys on this team, but they've been
Yeah.
critical players. In particular, Rick Nance coming back, your quarterback, is going to be an upperclassman this season. So speak to that leadership that you have in place, and the maintenance of most of this coaching staff at this time, and how that plays into this change of an era that's kind of not also a change of an era.
That's one thing. I guess we were kind of lucky 2 years ago when Coach Bellamy, yeah, 2 years ago, Coach Bellamy stepped away, went to the University of Michigan. Is that Coach Grice took over and did an awesome job, just kind of maintaining that culture that we as a whole program tried to help build, for the last at that time the last 10 or 12 years. And it's my goal just to kind of you got to be yourself. I have to do things my way, but we also know what's really worked for us and what the kids are comfortable with, and we have to just maintain that positive momentum that kind of those guys before me built. Yeah, in terms of our player leadership, I think you're absolutely right. We had three kids, believe it or not, that were in that state championship game a few years ago. Rick Nance, like you mentioned, Kari Jackson was a freshman on that team that played some, and Brandon Davis-Swain played a decent amount, like a healthy amount as a freshman that year. So we're fortunate as a coaching staff to have those guys be an extension of us to the rest of the program, because we can do everything in the world as coaches, but the best teams are going to be player led. They are. It's they can believe me and trust me and get behind everything that I'm saying. And all my assistant coaches the same way. But when the kids are living it themselves, like that's when it's really special. And we had that a few years ago, with Donovan Edwards and Jordan Hoskins, that were and are awesome senior leaders on that state championship team, and like Terrell Thurman. I mean, I can go on and on. But your best teams are going to be player led, and we're going to really rely on those three and guys like Jameer Benjamin and Jamar Johnson and MJ Johnson just to really just kind of continue that tradition that they saw growing up in the program from kids that are older than them, and hopefully they were watching, they learned, and they're ready to take that step.
Yeah, that defense is going to be very intimidating this season. Coming back with
Yeah,
Davis-Swain, one of, if not the most highly coveted defensive lineman in the entire country. With his recruitment still open. Kari Jackson recently committed to Penn State University, a linebacker, and as you mentioned, MJ Montel Johnson was really that surprise player for
yeah.
those outside looking in that came in last season into a starting role for the first time and knocked it out of the park. That defense, and then you look into the secondary with guys like Jameer Benjamin, it's stout. It's arguably as good as that defense in the state championship year. The offense is a little bit younger, but it has that veteran leadership too, with guys like Rick Nance leading the way. Speak to that offense this year and how those younger guys are going to be able to take that step forward, and are they ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think we had a group last year that, if they needed to, they could have played a whole lot more. And as the year went on, we had some, I guess, bad luck with injuries and health toward the end of the second, the third part of the season. I guess if you chunk it the 9 games into groups of three, those last 3 games we weren't that healthy, and we were playing a lot of young guys. And Josh Tate, I think on homecoming, came out against Lake Orion, scored 2 touchdowns as a sophomore running back, and a guy like Brody Pecor played like 3 or 4 different positions as a sophomore just because we needed him to. Like, he was lining up at quarterback, running back, fullback, kind of doing anything. So those guys, like, they got to learn a lot and they got to play some, and I think they're ready to go. And we've had some other like younger receivers they've been really, I guess, waiting their turn because they've had some really good players in front of them, and they're just eager just to get an opportunity to go out there and show what they can do. So, I mean, yeah, it's easy to see like, oh my gosh, Samaj Morgan's gone, Kenneth Jones is gone, Amir Herring's gone, Dallin Henry's gone. Yeah, those guys were really good, and we're not just going to like put somebody in; it's going to replace them just like that. But we also have some guys that are really working hard, and we think are going to be pretty special too.
The Lakers football season begins the penultimate week of August, August 24th at 7 p.m. They will be participating once again at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic. They'll be taking on Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley, and this will be the third
Yeah.
appearance for West Bloomfield at this particular event. Speak to that and how being in an event like this that does get a lot of notoriety in the local area, getting that exposure, that excitement to kick off the season. What does that bring to a team like West Bloomfield?
The exposure is great. The kids get pumped up for it. It's funny. Me, like, I don't like all that extra stuff having to go down to Wayne State, and like there's a game before you, so your normal pregame routine's just different. You're not out there warming up as like you kind of are for every other game. Your routine's off. So that always makes me nervous. It always has. But the kids love it. The fans love it. The communities love it. And it's funny when I think I texted my dad to tell him I got offered the head coaching position. And he said, "Congrats." About 2 minutes later, he says, "Wait a minute, you're playing Chippewa Valley week 1? Why'd you do that?" And I was like, I don't know. We'll find out how good we are right away, I guess. And it's just, it's that type of excitement and anticipation that, everyone's already excited to play football anyway. So why not just add to it?
Yeah, it's a great way to start the season. You can really feel the energy when you're there. I felt as a play-by-play and color commentator
Yeah.
for the Lakers, it's just that opening season feeling, and really it's just a great football environment. So 7 o'clock at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic, August 24th, as the second to last Thursday of the month of August is where the Lakers will kick off the season against another powerhouse program in Chippewa Valley. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
I really appreciate you guys having me.